In this section, we'll be looking at emotions. We'll start by exploring what happiness is and what other emotions actually are, how most people learn to deal with emotions, how emotions relate to your values and purpose, and then how you and your kids can cope with strong emotions in a constructive way. Now, one of the first things that I ask all my new clients is, what specifically do you want? And they may give me a long or a short list of things that they want to improve, but ultimately when we dig into this, everyone is looking for peace or happiness or some version thereof. So my next question is, what is happiness? What is this thing that you want? And how will you know when you have it if you don't really know what it is? So to understand happiness, we need to look at emotions in general. What happens is this. We have a movement of energy in that internal space that we call me. Then immediately we apply a label to this. This is anger. Then we apply a judgment, and it's bad. And then we apply a story. And the reason that I'm angry is because he shouldn't have said that. You know what he really should have done? And blah, blah, blah. And we make a whole big story in our head that then feeds back into that internal feeling. So if we strip away the story and the judgment and the label, all we're left with is that internal movement of energy. It isn't good or bad. It doesn't necessarily relate to what's going on around us. And it isn't even necessarily the label that you gave it. Remember from our discussion on stress that we often confuse those internal signals related to anxiety and excitement, for instance, or boredom and peace. So I like to think of emotions like the ocean. If you sit and watch the ocean over a couple of days, you'll see that some days you've got this flat, glassy ocean. And then other days there are those short little choppy waves. And then you have the big breakers. And then you can even have tidal waves. Now, none of these states of the ocean are inherently good or bad, and they may be different for different people. To a mother with a toddler, that flat, glassy ocean might be fantastic, but to a surfer, that's a terrible thing. But the ocean is beautiful because of all these different states that it has. So, do we really want happiness? Well, happiness would be like only ever having the calm, flat ocean. It's one of many movements of energy. So I would call happiness all the time flatlining. Emotions bring color and meaning to our lives. They're like the soundtrack to a movie. If you try watching a movie with the sound off, the sound is there to hook you emotionally, and that's what makes the movie enjoyable. And life, like movies, would be very boring with just one emotional signature.